Welcome. I really want to thank you for all being around here after the blockchain discussion. The one thing we found in putting together this session is that it's not really a war between the three parties that we have here. It's a failure to communicate, which is interesting. I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow description of all of our panelists. They are available on the website, but believe me, they are very well qualified to stand up to the heat that you're going to hopefully give them throughout the afternoon. First off, I want to thank Aaron Semmel for joining us because, right there, because he's the first EP I've ever met who actually, showed us what his budgets were going to be or what they have been, rather than, okay, you tell me how much you're going to steal from me, and then I'll tell you how far off you are. So, Aaron, can you kind of take people through how you develop your project budgets very quickly, how you allocate them, and how do you keep track of making sure we don't go over them, meaning everybody else?
Got it. First of all, thanks everyone for sticking around. I'm Aaron Semmel. What is this?
I don't know what it does, but
I'm Aaron Semmel. Like you said, I'm an executive producer. I produce television and feature films. And basically, one of the big parts of that executive producer job is the creation and exploitation of our budget. I don't do that myself. We often work with a team of people. I always say the Hollywood business is extremely collaborative, so we surround ourselves hopefully with people who know more than we do and know how to do this better than we do. Those are usually in a crew. It's our keys or our crew heads, and that's how we break down a budget, really. So when we put together the budget, what we'll do is and I'm going to blanket myself as all EPs. So the EP would then sit down with their line producer and production accountant usually, and go through a list, so to say, of what each crew head needs, what each part of that budget, what each department's number will be. And we kind of go through the budget like that. And as executive producer, honestly, we're given much of this in a vague sense, more of a blanket type of a sense. Everybody has their own gifts and their own abilities, so to say. You can see on this drawing that Andy just pulled up, it kind of breaks down roughly how we spend money in a budget. There's different elements of the budget, obviously the above the line and below the line. The above the line is often the frustrating one most working people hate because those people don't really work for our money. That includes me, the directors, the actors. Not really true. We all work hard. So basically then there's the crew, and that crew really determines the budget. And that's a lot of what we came together to talk about today, was how elements of technology can fit into that budget and at the end of the day save us, the EPs, money. Because honestly, that's really what we really care about, is the money and the quality of the project. Andy's pulling up what we call a top sheet from a budget. I'm not going to assume, I'm assuming most of you have seen these types of things. But this is what it's the top sheet because it's the first sheet of the budget. And you can see those departments I was talking about, they're literally listed right down it. And these are their overall numbers over on the right. And usually EPs tend to look at this top sheet. We usually take it out and we look at this, and for whatever arbitrary reason or whatever we might think, we might say, 10% less in the wardrobe, lose $20,000 in post. And sometimes I don't know why we say it. Sometimes we have real reasons. I don't know. But whatever happens, that's how we figure that stuff out. And then at the end, we say, this is your number. What I've talked to Andy a lot about is I could take a budget, and I consider myself somewhat of a smart guy. I could go through a budget with a yellow highlighter and might be able to pick out a few places where I believe tech belongs. But as an EP, I don't really know. It's my crew heads and the keys that really kind of take that lead for me. And a lot of times they come to us and they ask us for more money for things. And sometimes it might be tech. And honestly, I've been in the position, and the answer we usually say is hell no. No more money. You don't get any more money. But what I'm kind of learning and what people are starting to teach me is spending a little money up in the early stages, especially on tech, can save us a lot of money later on. And in my business, a lot of times problems rise, and the way we solve them is to throw money at them, lots of money. So if there was a way that we can solve a problem by spending just a little bit more money when we're at this phase of the process, and somebody comes and says, hey, buy this, it's better, and we actually buy it, it could save us money down the road. So those are how we kind of put together a budget and what we look for in a budget.
Cirina, how do you communicate, you meaning the D department, to improve your budget activities so you can make more money for the overall project?
I think looking at it from a couple of different viewpoints, when I'm come from the studio environment and segued into film and television as a writer, director, filmmaker many years ago. When I was at the studio, one of the ways we dealt with how to handle tech and how to budget was we did 3 versions of the budget. We did one budget when we greenlit the project and we knew we were going to go into development on it, and another version of the budget when we started to go into production, because by that time you knew what tech was going to be needed to further your project along. You knew what kind of cameras you were going to use, how much crew you were going to need, and what your post workflow was going to be, so you could better budget for all of that. The third budget would happen, and I would present it to the board right before we went into distribution, because by that time you knew what kind of film had been made or what kind of series had been made, and you knew what the reaction was going to be in the marketplace. And then after that, you wait till the first couple of weeks. For example, for a theatrical film, you would wait for the first couple of weeks, and as those numbers start coming in from all the theaters, you make decisions about how much further to spend on advertising and promotion, marketing, how many more theaters to book, that kind of thing. But we're talking about technology today, and I think the important thing to say, Andy, is that technology, every generation says, oh my goodness, we have new technology, we don't know how to react to it. Well, imagine how people felt when the first photographs were made, or the silent talkies, or when black and white went from black and white to color, and then when we all shifted from analog to digital. So every generation has new technology, and we have to not be afraid of it. We have to embrace it. We have to kind of ride the wave and go with it and say, this is amazing. This is available to us. We can go from drives that would take forever to migrate media to these new drives that save hours and hours in production and post and are safer. And I'm sure Larry will talk more about that. But I think that's the best way to manage the budgets, is to involve all of your keys, communicate with all of the departments, and give your line producer time to do a proper budget, time to talk to everybody and say, what do you need, what don't you need, and if you have to cut, that's when it becomes difficult. But sometimes you just have to do it, you know? Yeah. It might mean cutting a scene.
It's interesting that you bring this up, Cirina, because, you know, we have 2 people who are translating information to you, and you're translating to Aaron. What do you want out of your technology? Aaron?
I mean, honestly, the best thing that tech can do for us is, again, as the executive producer, there's 2 things we care about: the quality of the project and the money we make. And that's honestly it. This is the movie business, and we make movies and we make business out of it. So the way we make business is by making something for a price and then exploiting that and making more money than you spent on it. That's simple business. So now, if technology can somehow make it so at the end of the day I make more money, then it's improved my business. And what I'm coming to find, and again, forgive me, and I'll speak for all executive producers, we don't know the specifics that you guys know. We don't speak the language that you guys speak. More often than not, what happens is I'll be sitting in my office, and my post-production supervisor will come in and start telling me that I need a new deck or new hard drives or some new part of my system. And they tell me the ticket price, and we have to decide, is that worth it? That's often a lot of the information we've been given, is that. No, this is a new system. This is a better system. That doesn't translate to me. What would translate to me is tell me what about this is going to make me money. Why is it important for me to spend this money now? How is it going to save me money later? Because I just told you when we looked at that budget, it's real easy for me to cut a scene. It's real easy for me to cut money, you know, because that's what we do. We're worried about the bottom line. So if somebody approaches and says, hey, you need to spend this $50,000, if you tell us why that will save us money later or even in that moment, you're more likely to get a yes than just, it's newer, it's better, it's going to do this for you better. That's a term we hear a lot. Oh, it will make the movie better. That's not a quantifiable adjective to me, you know? And that's why if you could quantify it, if there's some way to break it down for us that explains to us how we're going to make money out of it, that's where we get excited.
Okay. Before I ask our two experts who are supposed to help you, Cirina, do you have the information, the details in hand as a production person to go and respond properly to Aaron?
Oh, luckily, I believe that I do, but I think it's very important for anybody at any level of production to understand the workflow. And you've all been talking about that for a couple of days now. Workflows are changing, technology is changing, and I think that the more we can do to understand it at our level and then communicate it very clearly to the people who are making the decision about how much money to give us, that's the most important thing. Okay. And also, you don't just pick a workflow because it is new and it's fancy and it's, you know, kind of glitzy. You pick it because it's going to give you the best creative result for what you as producers, directors, writers, and the crew want to have. And I do want to say one thing, maybe this is just personal, but I'm not afraid of technology, and I don't feel like technology is going to take a job away from me. I feel like maybe if technology is used properly, it's going to give me more time to do a better job at what I do.
I'm terrified by technology. Did you see what happened when he set that remote down? I was like, what is that? Get that away
He shoved
from
it
me.
aside. But, you know, to getting to your area, Larry, there's a technology that exists, quote, exists out there, or it's available, and somehow, and I'll pin it on you, you're not getting it the right messages to Cirina and encouraging it to get upstream.
You know, certainly, and I would absolutely say the best technology is technology that, you know, plugs in, plays, does its job. You don't have to be afraid of it. You don't even necessarily have to know what it's doing other than it's doing exactly what it needs to do. It's doing it, it's the best thing for what you need. And quite frankly, it's going to save you time and money because you're not worried about, you know, how it has to interface, how it has to connect. You plug it in, you go, and you get your job done better and faster. And when folks are coming to you, again, it's very easy to say this is, you know, it's, you know, throw out some specifications and some, you know, some hard numbers that are, you know, part of a data sheet. But, you know, what I'm hearing, definitely coming to learn is, you know, we have solutions that, you know, move from hard drives to solid state drives. You know, they're more rugged, they're more durable, they're faster. You know, they allow you to get things done in minutes versus potentially hours. Certainly, you know, 4, 5, 6 times faster than what you may be using today. And that means the dailies make it done, you know, or actually not make it done, get done in a single day. That means that, you know, you're hitting cutoffs, you know, on a single day versus running things overnight. That means you don't have people babysitting, you know, data transfers and duplications, backups, because what, again, takes many, many hours can be done in a fraction of that time. And translating that into a budget, you know, making sure that the folks asking for that, they're not asking for technology because it's cool, they're asking for it because it's going to save them time. And what saves them time obviously makes you money, or means you're going to be able to come in at a lower budget and have a better chance of getting that project.
I would also say to you that if you do use the hardware solutions that are going to save time in post, perhaps you could give me a little bit of money so that I could bring a PA on the set to do some logging and ingest metadata so that the media is more organized before we get to post. And also there are new software solutions out there that really help with the long-term archiving too, so you can marry the metadata to the media. I'm a real stickler for organization because that also saves time. So the money that we save using the SSD drives that are 4 times faster, some of that money can then be switched over to organize the media better and save you some other money on the back end.
It's I'd almost say it's kind of like if they came and said, we want to buy, you've got a vehicle budget, and maybe it's X, and they say, well, we need to spend, we want to spend this, don't cut us down. It's the difference between, a truck and maybe a compact. Sure, they can get it done with the compact. They're going to be making a zillion trips back and forth, carrying little pieces, but one trip with the truck, and they're there and they're done. And that translates. On a budget, it's a number. I'm going to take $5,000 off of this, or take $10,000 or $20,000 off. And now suddenly, you're able to, you're going to buy that. You still have the vehicle, but you're paying for it. It's going to come out someplace else.
I think one of the biggest thing is, I'm listening to the conversation, and I'm hearing people are coming to me and talking to me about these products and telling me that they're going to save me money, but they're not defining it. And the thing is, we come to conferences like this, and we go to the booths, and we look at and we go to the websites, and we look at these technologies, and we see the feature lists of what these technologies do, and we come back to that and we tell you the feature list of what they can do, and that doesn't tell you the story. What you want to hear is the value proposition of what it does. So you need to have someone who defines the value proposition, takes the products from a company that builds these technologies, and then develops a workflow and then translates that workflow into a value proposition that then talks to you and tells you how you can save money through the value proposition.
And it sounds like I've heard all three of you guys mention time, which I do feel like is very important. I feel like the value, like the unit of value, I feel like could be time. Because in our world, we always say when we're making content, there's three elements that come into play, and you only get two of them. There's time, money, and quality. So you have to decide between those three which two you get, because one of them is going to sacrifice for the other two. So if you're doing something and you don't have much time, chances are you're going to either spend a lot of money or not get good quality. To get good quality and not have much time, you have to spend a lot of money. You see how these things play out. So if you guys are able to quantify, remember I said we're not getting, in our realm, when you guys talk your tech talk, which is amazing, I literally was watching you guys talk, and I was like, I have no idea what these guys are talking about. And when they're going, it's fascinating to watch, but if there's a way to translate that into how that will save me time, time is our money. So again, like I'm going to use this as an example. If I make a reality TV show, let's say, and I shoot for 8 weeks, typically our post-production time frame is twice as long as production. That's a very simple equation. It could be more or less, but this is just a basic understanding. So if there is a way to do something, and this is what it sounds like you guys are telling me, that there's a way to do something that is going to take my 8 weeks of production, and instead of 16 weeks of post-production, I'm going to be able to do something in 12 weeks or 10 weeks because of technology, whether it be, and again, forgive me, I'm the least tech-savvy guy you ever meet, if it involves transfer rates or other elements to it, whatever it is, whatever's saving you time is going to save me money. So I feel like what I can voice as the EP is if you guys could start talking to us in sense of time that these things will save us, as opposed to the actual hard jargon that is really what it is about. Because a lot of times for us, some of us might understand that, but every single one of us executive producers will understand it when you start to say, this is going to save you time, which will save you money. We will understand that 100%.
I totally agree. I think you've got, and the process of taking different products and creating on-set workflows and creating on-set ingest systems where you can then ingest directly from your from your camera systems and ingest into an on-set server and then apply metadata, archive, and then send metadata, and then send the proxy files back to post so it can be edited, and then send up the raw files so that they can be online or even online on set. Those are some of the technologies that would save you that time, and and would actually save money because some of the other technologies you don't need to buy to do this workflow.
Well, Larry, how are you helping in that scenario to meet Cirina's needs and ultimately, Aaron's.
Ultimately, we've been, developing technology for 30 years, but it's listening and understanding. I mean, it's one thing, again, it comes back to that communication thing. The best solution in the world is useless to nobody if nobody understands how that solution is going to make an impact. And while years ago specs and things were really easy, I mean, it's especially established things. I mean, you can look at a straight spec and, okay, I mean, you might be, okay, well, that's 20 terabytes versus 10 terabytes. I know how much data I mean, those are easy things. But when it comes down to, I already know what we have gets the job done. Why is spending twice as much on this technology going to make a difference? Really changing the conversation, changing even how we communicate our products for those that need to come to you and explain their budget. It's really supporting this is going to save you time. We're already bringing the products forward that, they're more rugged. They're flashes, for the field instead of, spinning drives. They're super fast, which means you can get data moved to where it needs to go, duplicated, shared, whatever it may be. And really unbelievable how many times that, people can imagine a few years ago. But you need to understand, the people who need that gear need to be able to understand how to present it to you, how it improves their workflow, so that those workflow investments are made. Otherwise, this already works. Why do I need to change it? You're not really changing anything. You're just improving, the hardware that's involved and improving the tools your team has, so that, it's less people, it's less time. It's quite frankly, it's less people, sitting there doing administrative, sitting around waiting, watching, babysitting. More time, being productive, producing, giving you the material, the content that is really what you want to be paying for.
You also have, and other companies I believe may have, similar software that predicts drive failure, that had I known about 2 years ago, we lost 100 terabytes of data that we got hacked, that we might not have had a problem with had I known about some of these software solutions at the time. But there are solutions out there that can help you monitor your equipment and actually predict failure and or keep outside influences from coming in and stealing it from you. So I know that security and reliability is a really big factor for us.
Yeah, it's very big
That's a
for us.
point I find interesting because, Aaron is playing very heavily on saving me time. Jeff is outlining how he can save you time. Only Cirina has said, hey, the quality of content that I get and I save matters to her because ultimately she has to answer to somebody, and that's to Aaron, and he knows he's going to turn around and spend more time. And, he's going to have to spend more money and more time. I like this one that Larry brought along, which is shot obviously down in Haiti, and you can explain it better than I can, Larry.
I'm not sure if I'm going to explain the same thing or not, but nonetheless, the best part about this technology that costs a little bit more. I mean, you're reducing touch points, you're reducing points of failure, and you're also improving the quality of the hardware, the robustness of the hardware in terms of what it can handle in the what it can be subject to in the field without failure. So from a security point of view, you're not just saving time, but you're working with hardware that when you only have to have one person touch something instead of 5 people. If you're going direct from camera into SAN storage, for example, before distributing to a non-spinning, a non-mechanical device, you can then very quickly transfer to and ship and know it's going to get there in one piece. Know that your data is safe. The less time, the less touches. The benefits multiply all over the place, and security is. I say just security of the data. We're not talking necessarily encryption and whatnot. We're talking, knowing that the data, the shoot, that you're not going to, if you lose that shoot, you lose that content, it's gone. There's no way that he can't replace it. You can go shoot again, but it's never the same.
Luckily, it took almost a year, but luckily we were able to recover about 80% of it thanks to your company and Drive Savers. But we had to do some reshoots. Some of that footage is gone forever. But if you take a bird's eye view of what's happening in our industry right now, I think people are wanting all three.
Oh, yeah.
They're wanting all three, and they're demanding all three. So how do we, as creatives, deliver all three with lower budgets, less time, and they want it better than ever because there's a whole crop of new filmmakers coming out that are doing incredible work. They have to learn how to tell stories, but how do we do that? And so time becomes as valuable as gold.
Time is important too, but I'll go back and I'll amplify on the photo from Larry. These are 3 people that I happen to know personally. We're flying down to Haiti. they had, as most people do, they had all their gear, and they had their bags with all of their clothes. Those are the backpacks. They were stopped at the airport and said, you got too many bags, you're going to have to leave some of this behind. They put all of their clothes in the locker, and those backpacks have all of their storage with it, because and most of you can identify it. The data that you're capturing and holding is the most important thing you can deliver to the errands of the world any day in the week. The last person, I don't think Cirina, wants to stand up and say, I just lost 40 terabytes of your data, but don't worry, we'll get it back eventually, or it'll only cost you a couple $100,000 to get it back. That's your time. Yes, I understand that, Aaron, but it's also the quality of the content that you're keeping, even in the workflow somewhere.
I've actually had a lot of fun talking to Jeff today about these workflows he set up. He described to me, and to talk to this point of security, and again, security for us is that, like he's saying, this data is safe in all respects of that word. It could mean encryption to protect us, from the hackers or whatever. It could also mean if I drop that hard drive, it has a better chance of not failing. It could also mean, like Jeff was
Don't drop a hard drive.
Don't drop a hard drive.
Today's
that's the one thing I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to learn a hard drive can't get dropped.
I do want to say the flash drives that we're talking about, I mean, not only are they fast, they give you all these great features, you can literally run them over with a truck, and they're still ready to keep going.
I just like hearing.
We had a very interesting discussion before this session started with everybody at each other's throat.
I've dropped one of those drives. I have a confession to make, and it's still running, but I have to tell you, we were delivering a project to Chivas, and one of our editors, this was a few years ago, knocked down a spinning drive. All it did was tip over on the desk, and everything on that drive was gone.
That's why when we do on-set systems, we don't recommend you have any drives. We don't recommend you bring red mags on a red camera, or P2 cards on a Panasonic camera or whatever. We're taking SDI or fiber right out of the cameras and going into a shared storage system and having applied asset management to it. So you get your asset management on set right from the lens and going through, and you're applying all the LUTs properly, and everything is going to a shared storage system that then you can do daily reviews, and you can even do editorial on set or whatever you want to, even VFX or audio, and it goes right to a secure location, so you're NPA compliant on set. So then you can send your daily proxies back to Basecamp for editorial or a view and approve and stuff like that. So we don't recommend that you do any of that media in a camera at all, because there's no reason to. With fiber and with tactical fiber and SDI and all that stuff, you can create workflows that really enable you to save your data and save time and enable you to increase your profits.
Those are really neat technologies,
Yeah.
Jeff. What does it mean to the production person who has to take a budget to Aaron? They don't care about speed. They don't care about, performance levels. It's how much time is she going to give back to.
It means that when Aaron's shooting, he doesn't have to worry about his data. He doesn't have to worry about somebody sitting on a P2 card and crushing it, or dumping it into getting it wet or ruined that way. You don't have to worry about the drives getting mixed up and don't know which one is which order. It means that the drives are all in a secure server that is securely locked up, so no one can get to it. So so the client that you have, that Netflix is backing your project, knows that data is secured, and it means that then you can that data is in a place that can hit the cloud and go to any place that you need to have it securely. And it means that your data is backed up on LTO or other archiving backup. It means that your data is safe. It means that your project is there. It means that you can save time because you're not having to deal with all that media. It means you're not having to buy expensive media. Red mags, P2 cards cost immense amount of money compared to buying a NAS or a SAN drive. You can get tons of more disk space for a lot less money, and then you can attach, different servers, whether it's, to do it, and you can to send your data securely. It means that you're going to save time. It means you're going to save money. It means you're going to get your work done. And you can ingest at higher quality. So you can ingest it, you can ingest in 8K, you can ingest in 4K, whatever you want to ingest. It means that your DIT can apply a proper LUT to your system, so you can, every camera is adjusted. You can set a LUT on a system and then have a wire to every camera and immediately, instantaneously apply LUTs to all your cameras. It means that everything is safe and organized.
I think that's nice, but I don't think anybody in the audience here wants to be the first or the second person to do that.
This is not
They want to use existing technology,
this
creatively more put to work. How do you do that, Cirina?
How do you use existing technology?
Yeah, more intelligently.
Well, I think as a DP, I want that mag, or I want that card and that camera so that I have a local copy of it. So it's going to take me personally a while to get, and we are doing it on some of the sets. We are using the on-set or near-set daily systems, but there's still an element of creativity that you have when you're able to review your own files with your camera crew and see what you have. So although I'm preaching use the newest technology, there's always a transition period when we get used to it. So, but I do think, I agree with Jeff, I do think it can, down the road, it can save time and money for the studios that are budgeting these projects if we start to do more and more of that. Those cards are expensive. And, at the end of the day, if you're shooting VR or 360 or multi-camera shoots, you'll end up with a line of cards. It's crazy, the amount of media we're shooting.
And at the end of the day, a lot of these things, they're not completely reinventing the workflow. They're just simplifying it, or they're automating certain steps of it.
Right.
The same things are still happening, but you don't have as many people. You reduce those touches.
Right.
So at the end of the day, skipping past these, how do we improve the relationship rather than a salesman and an adversarial situation? How do we improve the relationship and the flow of information, I think is more key, with an EP, a DIP,
I think
anybody
it's
in the
mainly
process.
communication, like Cirina and I were talking about. And it's for all of us. It's for an EP, Larry said, for us to open up our eyes a little bit more, that when, a director of photography is coming to us and asking for more money in a budget for a certain type of technology, we as EPs should be more open to that. And then it falls down to our crew heads and stuff when they're explaining this stuff to us. If they could explain it to us in a way, like we're saying, in a language we understand, which really comes down to what we've been saying is time and money. So to come in and really not just say, oh, this would save us more time, but like, you know what, this will get this done for us 4 times faster. And if we do this 4 times faster, that means over the time of our 16-week schedule, we can carve a week off. And Aaron, I just saved you, now we're doing 15 weeks, I just saved you 1 week of post. And editors cost a lot of money. So if you're able to do that, that's fantastic. So it's like if they could translate it like that, and then I feel like for guys like Jeff and Larry, I feel like you guys are really doing your job, creating these new technologies and workflows. I think the way to do it again then is just in that translation. There's a lot lost in translation to us, where it's like, how do these workflows work in a way that can, again, make it so that I don't have to spend as much time on my production, I think that's the communication kind of link we need,
Do we have any line producers in the room? Any line producers? No, I
One back there.
Pardon me? There is one back there? I love you.
There's one picking on people.
The line producers that I love the most are the ones who really take the time to communicate with everyone at all levels before they commit to the final budget, so that you really feel like you're collaborating on the end product. I've directed series where literally, as a director, they haven't told me what my budget is. How do you manage that? And I've been on other shows where they've shared with me right from the beginning what I have, and then I'm more able to make creative decisions and save some money and help them get a better bottom line. So for me, improving the relationship is about mutual respect, trust, and communication. And then it becomes an amazing process, just an amazing process.
I think that's, thank you, Aaron and Cirina. How can your organizations, Larry and Jeff, get beyond the point of being so in love with technology? And I say that in the nicest way, type of thing, to really relate. And I know you spend a lot of time with Cirina and the people, and Jeff spends a lot of time. How do we get beyond that? How do we help the rest of the industry explain that to the people? Or maybe we don't want to tell them how to do a better job of explaining their technology solutions over somebody else's.
At the end of the day, it comes back to that communication piece and how we communicate, and perhaps working with the folks that are going to be a beneficiary of new technology, better technologies, how they go into the budget process. They can say, this is going to save me a lot of time. So, okay, great. So you're going to go have, a longer coffee break or take off. That's probably what you're thinking, I'm assuming. It's that single piece, but making sure that the communication, even in the products. We're out there. We're here to make everybody's lives better, faster, more efficient, and more secure. We want technology that's seamless, that lets everybody focus on the creative process, not having to focus on making the technology work. The technology today is there to plug and play and go, which is fantastic. But it's making sure that somebody comes to you and says it's going to save time. It's understood what that means to the overall workflow that you're dealing with, and how that time adds up across departments, adds up across where you can allocate people, resources, making sure that it's also some you got folks sure they can ask for. There's all sorts of crazy requests you get that maybe are easier than others to identify and turn down. But on the technology side, it's also understanding, depending on who's asking for it, they're asking for it because it's going to make a big difference in that workflow, and understand, perhaps even asking the question, okay, this makes everything faster, that's great. What does that mean to me? How is that? What does that mean on the on the set, in that production process? Just make sure there's a greater context. I'm spending $20,000 here, but you're going to get that back 10 times over. Because how often is it that you save a couple dollars someplace, you cut something out of the budget, and then without knowing, all of a sudden somebody on the back end is asking for a whole lot more time. I think you talked about a VA. A few dollars spent here, you could save, 10 times that. Got to say down the road, but it's on the front part. You're looking at it in pieces. And honestly, if somebody, I'm sure, comes to you and you set this budget based on this technology and what resources are there, you're already approving probably that larger cost spent on the back end because somebody said, this is what I need because this is how it's going to get to me.
And that's why I love conferences like the Hollywood Professional Association Tech Retreats. HPA. Because these allow me to come together with the technologies like Larry's company and other companies. I can see these technologies and I can come together with the with the user of the technologies like you folks out here, and I can develop. I can listen to what your needs are, listen to what you want to do, and then I can go into the innovative thing and look at the technologies that are coming out there and find ways of creating workflows. And this is why I go to so many conferences, why I come to here, because the technology conferences like this enable me to take the technologies from companies like Larry's company and innovate and create innovative workflows that help you guys out there create, and the people up here create better products for less money and save time.
So, are there any questions from the audience? We have an opportunity now to talk to probably the 4 parts of your business that you have to deal in every day.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. guess as the conference goes on, I'm getting more talkative.
Thank you for being here.
And this is, I guess it's more of a comment, but early on, you sort of showed a pie chart of where the different departments the money gets allocated. You showed the sheet, that's great. And there's definitely a split between production and post-production. And I think there's still that mental split. And of course, with all of the schedules getting really, really squashed and stuff. And this is, I guess, more from a feature film point of view. But you want to know if you do something up front that it'll save you money at the end. And the people who know if it will save time or money at the end are the people in post-production. But so many times,
Boy, we're not biased out here, are we?
it's like you're already, shooting the movie and everything else. You don't even know what post facility you're going to use. So I would say bring the post people in sooner, and they'll let you know, oh, this will save you
Absolutely.
money. And there's so many times that a decision is made because, oh, I was told this is going to save me, and it turns out that it just completely complicated the whole post thing. So that as the lines are getting blurred between production and post-production, bring us into the budgeting process,
Absolutely.
and we'll help you.
I won't even start a production without talking to post first. And normally I'm involved all the way through. You guys are gold for us. And if you don't communicate up front, something's going to get messed up down the line. You can't, how do you know what to anticipate unless you talk to all of the team members right up front? So I agree with you. Thank you for making that very clear.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I was stressing the ability to bring in your data so that you can create alliances with your post facility. So you can send them the file. You can create ways of linking the files. There's plenty of people who've made plenty of servers that allow you to accurately synchronize files and send data back and forth quickly, large packets of files quickly and reliably. And I keep innovating, finding ways to take small networks and find bits and pieces of the network so you can put it together so you can create pipes and stuff like that. So there's a lot of ways, technologies that have come out that allow you to create those alliances with your post companies. So I do encourage that, and I do encourage creating alliances with your post and bringing them closer to the set. So you bring them in, bring the post companies onto your set, and allow them to create that link so then they can do the final color and DI in a much easier and faster way.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a question right here.
Yeah, coming from post-production and in single camera episodic, which by the way is usually done with 2 cameras, one thing that I would absolutely never tolerate is any process that requires a wire from the camera to someplace else. That's going to cost you a fortune in time, because people are going to try not to trip over it. They're still going to trip over it and kick it out. Absolutely, cards from the camera, hand-carried to the secure tent where the data wrangler handles them.
Well, the wireless systems they've developed in the last few years allow us to do that. In the old days, you couldn't do that. So thank heavens we can do that now. I totally agree with you.